Ba ba da ba ba la. Hey everybody, it is me, Pugs Moran. Welcome into the high noon stream. High noon. It's 12:12. Look at that. Well, actually, it's 12:12 on the microwave. Actually, computer time. It's 12:08 now. 12:09. Yeah, I know. A little bit late today. Some days look, okay, so what is late for me? This is late for me. I'll give you that. 3 minutes, that's not late for me. Hi, Taronda. Taronda's here, clapping as she always does. This is late for me. 3 minutes isn't late for me. But I apologize. We had a repeat. If you listen every day, you know about why we were late yesterday. I got an excuse every day for you. It's my promise to you. Yesterday, I told you that we were late because I spent an inordinate amount of time considering the worthiness of Paul Rudd for a Pugs Moran High Noon draft, which is something we do. Hold on, hiccups. There we go. I knew they were coming. Here we go. This is why I'm sort of, oh God. Ah, jeez. Coffee, soda, rotate, hiccups. All right. Oh, God, guys. Hi, Jen. Hi, April. Hi, Jeff. Sorry. You know the drill. Hiccups. Haven't had them in a while. Hiccups have not plagued me here in the noon hour in probably a week or so. But I felt these brewing. I did. I felt them. I felt like I was talking. Remember, I was talking about why I was late. And yesterday I told you I was late because I spent an inordinate amount of time considering the worthiness of Paul Rudd for a draft. Let's do a draft. I do drafts where I rank people's. And I was like, I want to do Paul. Well, it's the exact same thing today. That's why I was late today. What person did I spend just a stupid amount of time, way too much time, an inappropriate amount of time? What person did I waste that time on today? Stay tuned. You'll find out. Also, because here's what we do on this show. We like to bring you up to speed on everything that the world is all abuzz about. So if it's a hot topic, if it's a trending topic, a current event, something that, breaking news, whatever it is, I try and bring it to you here every day, the High Noon Show, Monday through Friday, noon to whenever. I did it. I was doing a weird thing with my breathing there where I wasn't allowing myself to... You don't need to know how the sausage is made. You don't need to know how the sausage is made or how the hiccups are stifled. Let's see here. Oh, here's some of the things we're going to be talking about today in the trending topics segment. Whole bunch of people that died recently. We're finding out now how they died. I got like 3 big name people who died recently who it's like, that's how they died? Uh-oh, got cocky. Here we go. Hiccups. It's coming. I can feel it. Oh, man. We went from a hiccup watch to a hiccup warning. Just like that. Oh, God. Hiccups. Oh, now they're coming. I don't know what's happening. Oh, my God. Oh, boy. What else do we got? We got a bunch of stuff we'll talk about. Motley Crue. Motley Crue is in the news. Crazy Motley Crue story we'll get to. I'm trying to fill time so that I can beat the hiccups and then we can start the show. There's Motley Crue stuff going on. We'll talk about that. Sad Motley Crue stuff. Or funny, depending. I don't know. We'll find out who you are, won't we? Hi, Dustin. Dustin, I'm struggling with hiccups. Byron's here. We can see the sauce. Hi, Byron. Hi, April. Frank, how is my leg? Okay. Frank, thank you. That makes me so happy because I was just thinking, I'm like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about me. Here we go. Everybody knows I got a sprained ankle. Ain't nobody checked on me. This is it. This is the beginning. This is the slippery slope of me dying alone in my own urine because nobody. Thank you, Frank. Last weekend I sprained my ankle and it swelled up, and I showed it to you on Monday. It was really bad. But then by Tuesday, it had significantly improved. The swelling had gone down. It was just discolored and weird at that point. And so I thought, I can do stuff on Tuesday. So I actually went out and I did stuff on Tuesday. And oh my God, by Tuesday evening, it was a water balloon again. It had gone all the way back up. Too soon, I rushed it. It's the reason we canceled the Pugs and Parker show for Tuesday. And then, I just stayed off the last couple of days. But Frank, I will have you know that here we are on this Friday. I'm going out again. I got plans. I got plans. I got kid. I got other things. I got stuff today. And I'm going to do it. I'm walking around. I got a little bit of a limp, but it's not bad. We're doing good. Thank you, Frank. Frank cares about me. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get started because it seems like that little rant about my ankle situation has cured the hiccups, at least for now. So let's pile through, right? Let's do this. Hi, folks. It's me, Pugs, and it is high noon for the 7th day of April, year of our Lord, 2023. April 7th. I'll have you know. It's the 97th day of the year. There are 268 days remaining until the end of the year. So here's what we do on the show. We give you all the trending topics, at some point over the next hour, 2 hours. We'll get into all the trending topics, all the headlines. I'll give you a hot take on them, and then we'll move on. We don't spend too much time on any one subject, and we try not to get politically divisive. In fact, we avoid it at all costs. We're right down the middle here. We don't do politics because politics ain't news. You know what's news? A guy getting his dick cut off by like a shark at an aquarium. That's new. Is that a story coming up? I don't know. But those are the kind of things that we're talking about. The other things. But before we do that, I like to go through the history of the day so that we understand exactly what has shaped this day throughout time. We call that Previously on April the 4th. So let's get into that. Okay, history of today. Some of the things that happened on this day. On this day in 1788. Oh, and by the way, let me tell you this. We also do birthdays where we celebrate the birth and the contributions of people who were born unto the world on this day. And that's always fun and nice. And we also do mornings where, we talk about the people who have passed on this day. And I have to tell you, it is a big day for birthdays, and yesterday was a particularly big day for deaths. Remember the people who died yesterday? Everybody, all the big celebrities who died yesterday were mega stars. Like Don Rickles was like the least famous of all of all the big celebrities we went through. Well, I'll have you know, on this day, the biggest, I'm gonna argue the biggest celebrity death in history. That's right. We'll get into that. All right, let's talk about what happened on this day in history. 1788, settlers established Marietta, Ohio. Hold on. Hiccup's coming. On this day in 1788, settlers established Marietta, Ohio, which becomes the first permanent settlement created by the U.S. citizens in the recently organized Northwest Territory. That's fun to think about. Ohio, Marietta, Ohio, was considered the Northwest Territory of the United States. On this day in 1805, German composer Ludwig van Beethoven premieres his Third Symphony at the theater. Oh, Beethoven, we finally got him. We finally got the guy. You know the guy I'm talking about. Bum, 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 bum. That's Beethoven. Mozart, I don't know. That's Beethoven, right? He's the big one. He's the only one that really matters because he did that. Boom, 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 boom. That's like the only that's it. That's the I Want to Hold Your Hand of classical music. That's like the first big pop hit. And so we remember that one. And so it was on this day. Bum, 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 bum. Oh no, it was his third symphony. That's his fifth. This is like 2 symphonies before he got the good one. Beethoven. Nice deek job, Beethoven. 1862, the American Civil War, the Union Army of Tennessee. Okay, the Union's Army of Tennessee and the Army of Ohio defeat the Confederate Army of Mississippi near Shiloh. The Battle of Shit Show. We talked about that yesterday. Today was the day it ended. Today was the day the Battle of Shit Show ended. And General Grant would continue his dragging his not defeated, they're victorious, but you may as well be defeated because they were beaten up and they were exhausted. And he marched his army over to what was it? The beginning of the Appomattox campaigns, which would end the Civil War. On this day in 1922, the Teapot Dome scandal occurred in the United States. Secretary of Interior Albert B. Fall leases federal petroleum reserves to private oil companies on excessively generous terms. Graft corruption. Yeah, that's what Teapot Dome was. Teapot Dome, Secretary of the Interior, went to like John D. Rockefeller or whoever, some guy who owned Standard Oil or whatever. And Standard Oil was like, hey, there's a lot of oil here. Ain't nobody using this land. And the Secretary of Interior said, nope, nobody's using it. It's just federal land. And John D. Rockefeller's like, and I don't even know if it was John D. Rockefeller. Probably was, but I don't know. One of those guys, some rich oil guy with oil interests. What if we slide you a little bit of cashola? What do you say? And he said, well, we'll sell this federal land. And that's what happened. Big scandal. Dude got paid off. And he gave our land. That's our land. That should be nationalized oil. That should be paying for the schools. But it's not. It's paying for fifth generation Rockefellers to drive supercars and have private jets. That's what it's going for. Not fixing our schools or our roads. There are Rockefeller children, ancestors, who have large hotel tabs at the Grand Hotel. Where are we? On this day in 1927, AT&T engineer Herbert Ives transmits the first long-distance public television broadcast from Washington, D.C. to New York City. What was the show? Here's the show. Picture Herbert Hoover. That's what it was. The very first thing. It's a picture of Hoover. And he wasn't even president yet. He was just secretary. Was he Commerce Secretary? Something like that. He was like Commerce Secretary. So the very first thing that was ever transmitted by television, it was done from Washington, D.C. to studios in New York, and it was a picture of Hoover. I don't even know what he looks like. You guys know what Hoover looks like? Do you guys even know the difference between Herbert Hoover and J. Edgar Hoover? And I'll sprinkle in a little Herbert Humphrey or Hubert Humphrey. I don't know. There's all these guys' political names. Herbert Hoover was a president. J. Edgar Hoover founded and ran the FBI. I don't know. But I don't know what either one of them looks like. Like, I think I know what J. Edgar Hoover looks like, but I think I might be thinking of Herbert Hoover. And it's the same for him. I think I know what Herbert Hoover looks like, but I might be picturing J. Edgar. I don't know. Old guys. On this day in 1933, prohibition in the United States is repealed for beer. No more than 3.2% alcohol by weight, 8 months before the ratification of the 21st Amendment of the United States Constitution, which is now celebrated as National Beer Day in the United States. I don't know what any of that means. I just know that. Think about that. Think about them trying to pull. I mean, dudes, regular rank and file dudes, your in some cases grandpas or your great grandpas, some of you great grandpas, ones you never met. It's not like today that guys enjoy beer more than they did in 1928. I mean, guys, imagine today they just went, all of a sudden booze is illegal. Honestly, how this didn't start like street war. Social media. There was no social media. It was harder to organize back then. And they try to pull this now in the social. Oh, my God. Although, we do have large portions of, not large, I guess small, weird portions, but they're shooting up cases of Budweiser and swearing they're never drinking Jack Daniels again. So, who knows? Maybe it could work. I don't know. It just seems so crazy. It seems so crazy to me that relative recent time here in the United States that booze was illegal. Oh my God. Let's see here. In 1943, the National Football League makes helmets mandatory. That's right, on this day. What are they? In the off season. They have winter meetings, and I guess that's a baseball thing. Owners' meetings. I guess that's what they call them. The owners' meetings in football. They decided that on this day in 43, they went, hey, maybe, I don't know, helmets? Something like that. They went, okay. But they made them mandatory, meaning that the idea of helmets must have been around for a period of time. It was just, optional. This might have been when they started getting sued. Somebody probably sued the National Football League. And, helmets, they're mandatory now. 1969, the internet's, on this day in 1969 is considered the internet's symbolic birth date. So this whole thing that we're doing today, happy birthday, internet. There you go. Symbolic birthday. I don't know. It says here because on this day, the publication of RFC1. I don't know what that means, but some people do. And you know what I just said. For the rest of us, they say it's the internet's birthday. Well, who's they? Hey, everybody, that's my co-host. That's the guy who lives in my head, schizophrenic me. They, in this instance, are the institution. The institution. Remember, I believe that institutions are important because I honestly don't have the time to do the legwork on a lot of things. And I have to believe that there are experts who do and that they're going to tell me. 2003, during the Iraq War, U.S. troops captured Baghdad. Today was the day that we ran into Baghdad, and we tore down the Saddam Hussein statue. Remember that? And pulling it down. Bullet. I watched that all morning. That started at like 7 in the morning. The tanks rolling into Baghdad. On this day in 2022, Katanya Brown Jackson is confirmed for the Supreme Court of the United States, becoming the first black female justice in Supreme Court history. All right, very good. That was just 1 year ago today. Feel like it's how long we've been doing this show. Look at this. We're having anniversaries of things that we actually discussed in real time on the show are now showing up in the previously on. I'd say we've crossed some form of Rubicon. I don't know. Let's get into the birthdays. Let's talk about people celebrating birthdays today. Born on this day in 1928. One of the coolest, one of the guys, one of them dudes, James Garner, ladies and gentlemen. Rockford Files. He was other things too, but I'm not old enough to know the other things. I know he was Rockford. That's it, James Garner. What else was he? It feels like James Garner probably did some shows in the 80s. Didn't he? He was Jim Rockford when I was real little. Anyway, what else did he do? He get into any, did he play a cop in some 70s movie or something, or TV show? TV shows is what I'm looking for. He's done a lot of movies. James Garner's pretty cool. I like him. James Garner, ladies and gentlemen, celebrating a birthday. Not sure what he did in the 80s. Know that he did Rockford in the 70s. That's good enough for me. And did another thing in the 60s. He was famous already when he took Rockford. He was famous for some cowboy. How the West Was Won? Wasn't that it? Did he play Jim West or something like that? I don't know. That's before my time, but I'm really going back into my, I don't know, whatever. Born on this day in 1928, the great Alan J. Pakula. Alan J. Pakula. On a lesser day, we might do an Alan J. Pakula draft. And that would include films like Clute. That would include films like All the President's Men. There's a number of films that we certainly could justify an Alan J. Pakula draft, but we're not going to do that today. Born on this day in 1929, Joe Gallo, American gangster. Known as Crazy Joe Gallo, ladies and gentlemen. Are you familiar with the legend of Crazy Joe Gallo? You should be. Well, I am, because, I love the gangster stuff. I consider myself more expert level with Chicago outfit mob stuff, from Capone. I would say I'm good. I'm good with Capone through the end of the outfit, 2005-ish, who I think was Let's go with Capone to the death of Joey the Clown Lombardo. I'm good with that. That's sort of my wheelhouse. But I can do New York too. And when you do New York, you got to be familiar with the hits. And one of the big hits of New York crime and mob stories is Crazy Joe Gallo. Crazy Joe Gallo caused two of the most infamous New York Five family wars in history, the Colombo Wars. They occurred in the 1960s and into the 1970s. Here's what happened. Joe Gallo was a schizophrenic. That's Crazy Joe Gallo. Crazy Joe Gallo was a schizophrenic who grew up in like Little Italy or whatever it was. He became a member of the Profaci crime family. And Crazy Joe Gallo, as a teen, kept rising very quickly. Why? Because Crazy Joe Gallo was crazy and he did things. He killed people. He killed people and somehow got away with it. And so he began to become somebody at a very young age, like 20 years old, sitting there with the Godfather and all that stuff, you know. Old man Profaci at the time, because it was the Profaci crime family then. So a bunch of things went haywire, and the Profaci family became the Colombo crime family. Joe Colombo, who if you watch Godfather of Harlem, Joe Colombo is a big player in this season of God, and he's so awesome. The guy who plays Joe Colombo. Anyway. Crazy Joe Gallo and his crew, which included his two brothers, he was a capo regime. He was a captain. So Joe Gallo, at a very young age, had a crew. And he probably wasn't old enough to really understand what he was involved in, but he did something that you don't do. He kidnapped and held for ransom made members of the New York Five families. This caused everybody to go, what the fuck? Joe Colombo, what are you doing with your guy? What is Gallo doing? And so he went rogue, and this started the big Colombo, the first Colombo War. Anyway, Crazy Joe Gallo is fascinating. Crazy Joe Gallo, did you see The Irishman? In The Irishman, The Irishman, which was Scorsese's movie that came out a couple of years ago, it was supposed to be, wasn't The Irishman it's about the guy who killed Hoffa, right? It was supposed to be the true explanation of it. Wasn't it Jack Nicholson? Who was, I don't even remember it now. Here's what I do remember. I remember in that movie, Sebastian Maniscalco played Crazy Joe Gallo. And we know how that ended. He was killed at the clam house, celebrating, having some clams, and some dudes walked in and killed. Well, not some dudes. It was Jack Nicholson, right? Am I confusing the movie Hoffa? Who was in? It was Robert De Niro. That's what it was. It was Robert De Niro in The Irishman, not Jack Nicholson. And it was that scene, the scene where Robert De Niro kills Crazy Joe Gallo, is depicted. Crazy Joe Gallo is fascinating, man. You know who's not so fascinating? Another guy who's got a birthday today. Born on this day in 1933, Wayne Rogers. He was in MASH, but which one was he? Here's the problem. Hawkeye was the constant, right? So Alan Alda became sort of the center of all of our attention. Now, throughout the run of MASH, Alan Alda had two buddies. And if the first buddy, who was the first one? I don't even know. Was Wayne Rogers the first one or the second one? Who's BJ, right? It's Mike Farrell. Mike Farrell's the first one. Okay, so this is the second. Wayne Rogers is the second one or the first one? I don't know. My point is, if the other surgeon had stayed a constant, then we wouldn't just be like, oh, that's Alan Alda's show. We would know, like, he'd be just as big as Alan Alda. But they moved, they changed around. You know, you had Winchester and Frank Burns. That was the other one. You know, who's the constant? Hot Lips. Loretta Switch. She stayed. Who's not? Colonel Potter. He left. So I don't know who Wayne Rogers. I don't even remember which one he was. But I just remember, Jamie Farr. Jamie Farr wore a dress for... Hey, they got a band MASH now because of, drag. Drag is entertainment. Drag is entertainment is illegal in a whole lot of states now. Jamie Farr as Klinger was pretty entertaining. I don't know if that can be shown. Oh my God, if I was like a sleazy lawyer in like Tennessee or something like that, I would just wait for a station to air an episode of MASH. And then I'd file an illegal, it's an illegal broadcast. How can the local Fox affiliate be running episodes of MASH with Klinger running around in a dress, making us all laugh and entertaining us in a state where it's illegal to be entertained by depictions of drag. Some lawyer going to get some money because they got money. They got money at Fox Network. They got money. I'm just telling you, man. Just telling you. Look, the world is a shit show. So just, I used to think, oh man, the world is so bad. Just whatever impression that I am going to make, just let me try to be nice and, cool. And just be nice with people and just, whatever your little imprint is going to be making. Fuck that. Yeah, the world's a shit show. Just people, I'll tell you, that's one thing I've learned living in this neighborhood. We do this show from the 1%er compound, we lovingly call it. Island Park, Texas. This is a super rich neighborhood. These people are all criminals. And the more I socialize and, hang out at football, you people. And yet we're all taught, be good, work hard. No, be smart. Figure out a way to con somebody out of there. Find stupid people with money and take it. That's it. That's pretty much the game. There you go. Good night, everybody. That's kind of it. Use people dumber than you. Use people more gullible than you to make yourself wealthy. That's really it. I mean, there's a bunch of variations on how one does that, but that seems to be it. All right, Wayne Rogers. How about this birthday? Here's a big one. Born in 1939. Francis Ford Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola draft. Oh, you better believe it. Yeah, this is why Alan J. Pakula didn't get a draft. Because I knew that Francis Ford Coppola was coming up, and he's a top fiver easily. He doesn't necessarily make my top. I always talk about my top 3 favorite film directors being Kubrick and then some variation of Tarantino and Scorsese in the 2 and 3 spot. I don't know. But it's always Kubrick number 1. 4 is probably Francis Ford, but Francis Ford, he doesn't seem to churn them out quite to the degree. And also, Francis Ford, to his credit, he goes all over the place. Like the guy who did The Godfather also did Peggy Sue Got Married. You know what I mean? Like Francis Ford Coppola, he's got the guy who did The Conversation. Or no, the guy who did Apocalypse Now also did Rumblefish. So I think he gets unfairly penalized in my internal estimation of one's, directorial worth. But anyway, he's certainly a top 4. So let's get into it. Possibly the number 1 greatest film of all time. It's my number 2, but we'll acknowledge that a lot of people say it's number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, first off the board in the Francis Ford Coppola draft, 1972's The Godfather. That's right, The Godfather comes off the board. Francis Ford Coppola draft, pick number 2 coming off the board. Apocalypse Now, 1979. Apocalypse Now, that's right. A lot of people are like, what, you didn't do Godfather 2 there? No, Apocalypse Now. As a matter of fact, here's what I say about Apocalypse Now. I love Apocalypse Now. I've seen Apocalypse Now multiple times. I don't understand Apocalypse Now. I compare it to my love of Stanley Kubrick and how Kubrick's film, 2001, another film I've seen 10 times. I don't understand it. I don't understand Kubrick's 2001. I've seen it over and over. And the fact that I don't understand it makes me angry. It makes me angry. That's not the case with Apocalypse Now. With Apocalypse Now, I've seen it 10 times. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm thoroughly entertained the entire way through. Apocalypse Now never leaves me in that place where I find myself in 2001 while watching 2001, where it's so boring, but you're giving it time because you have faith in the director, and it just never pays off. It's the worst. So Apocalypse Now, number 2 off the board, number 3 off the board in the Francis Ford Coppola draft. We are going with 1974's The Conversation. Oh, it's such a good movie, man. It's overshadowed. The Conversation is over, although it was nominated for Best Picture, right? Yeah, Conversation got a Best Picture Oscar. But it was a bit overshadowed as far as hype because it was released the same year as The Godfather 2. I mean, The Godfather was like the greatest film of all time. And then its sequel comes out. And in the same month span, the same director releases another. The Conversation is so good. Gene Hackman, John Casale. It is so good. Number 4 off the board. First pick is The Godfather. Second pick, Apocalypse Now. Third pick, The Conversation. The fourth pick in the Francis Ford Coppola draft, 1974 is The Godfather 2. That's right, The Godfather 2. Out of respect for the conversation, I put it just one tick higher than The Godfather 2. Number 5, the final pick in the official draft of Francis Ford Coppola films. The 5th pick off the board, 1980? I don't know what year this was. Early 80s, mid 80s. Tucker, A Man and His Dream. Have you ever seen Tucker? Tucker is a great, great movie, man. Jeff Bridges plays, I don't know, let's call him Nelson Tucker. I don't know what his first name is. But he was a car designer. He was a car builder. He was like a Henry Ford type guy back in the 1930s. And he built cars. He built cars cheaply and affordably in the 1940s or 1930s, whatever it was. I don't know, 50s, maybe, whatever. Back then, I wasn't alive. It all blends together. The point is, he was building affordable cars for every American back then with shit that the major American auto manufacturers wouldn't implement for years, like anti-lock brakes, airbags, and other things like breakaway glass, all kinds of these safety things that he put into these cars that did not significantly increase the price, right? Also, they were really cool looking cars. And business was like, okay, so you're telling me you can make a car that's every bit as the same price point as a GM car, and it's going to be a lot safer, and quite frankly, it looks a little better. They were investing money in it. And the Tucker Car Company was becoming a thing. And then Washington and General Motors got involved and crushed him. They crushed it, and it's such a good movie. If you've never seen Francis Ford Coppola's Tucker, A Man in His Dreams, it's, for me, it's Jeff Bridges. It's my favorite Jeff Bridges movie, and I love Jeff Bridges. So 5 off the board, Tucker, The Man and His Dream. It's a true story, and it sucks, but it's so interesting. It's so cool, too. It's very cool. That's it. So The Godfather is off the board first. First pick overall in the Francis Ford Coppola draft, The Godfather, followed by Apocalypse Now, The Conversation, The Godfather 2, and Tucker, The Man in His Dream. But we certainly are inviting some free agents, some undrafted. We're going to bring them into camp. We're going to take a look-see. We're going to see if they make the team. First into the camp, we're bringing in the Outsiders. That's right. I loved the Outsiders as a kid. I haven't seen it in 40 years. Let me take a look at it. How about Rumblefish? Same as the Outfish, the Outsiders. I love both those movies. Those S.E. Hinton books, man, right in my Gen X wheelhouse. Are you kidding me? Peggy Sue Got Married. That's right. Nicolas Cage, Kathleen Turner, 1950s. Peggy Sue Got Married is getting a look-see at camp. You're damn right. The Cotton Club. Oh, the Cotton Club was cool. Major flop. The Cotton Club was a big flop at the box office. I don't know why. It was really good. Richard Gere. If you've never seen Francis Ford Coppola's Cotton Club, a story of 1930s Harlem and the club at the center of it all, the Cotton Club. It was really cool. Wait, is that what it's about? I think it is. Anyway, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember this was a good movie. I liked it. Okay, so Cotton Club I'm going to obviously have to take another look at Cotton Club. I might have that confused with another movie. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about Cotton Club, and I'm describing Harlem Nights, and they're not the same movie. They're not. Similar setting, but not the same movie. All right, also coming to camp in the Francis Ford Coppola draft. Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah, that was a good one. I like Dracula. I haven't seen that in a while. Might have to watch that again. That might be a good one for me and my kid to watch. That came out. There was a couple years in the 90s where we were vampire crazy. And then there was like no vampires for a while. And then vampires came back with what's that? Kristen Stewart stuff. It's Twilight, with the whole Twilight stuff. But do you remember when Interview with a Vampire? There was that. It was the biggest movie ever. And then Bram Stoker's Dracula. They were big. They were big. Bram Stoker's Dracula was good. And it's getting a camp invite. Also, The Rainmaker is getting a camp invite. Francis Ford Coppola's Rainmaker. Matt Damon. Was Danny DeVito in that? I think he was. I think it was Matt Damon. One of Matt Damon's earliest films. One of those where you went, oh, okay, maybe this kid is going to be famous. It was good, about lawyers and, okay. There you go. That concludes our Francis Ford Coppola draft on today, his birthday. Born on this day in 1939. Also born on this day in 1939, David Frost, English journalist and game show host and comedian. Now, that's something Americans don't really. David Frost to us is the guy who sat down and very seriously and very studiously interviewed Richard Nixon after Richard Nixon had left office. The Frost-Nixon interview. And he was the speeches man, and he was sitting with a formal president. He was all very, very, very sophisticated and very elegant and dignified and all that. And so we Americans, that's how we got to know David Frost. And we're like, oh, he's like, he's like their Cronkite. He's just, he's like a British. That's not who David Frost was. David Frost was a comedian. David Frost had a comedy show, much like Jon Stewart, much the way The Daily Show and Jon Stewart. Well, he had one of those shows. I forgot what it was called. But he had one of those shows in England where he played like a fake news guy or a straight-laced news guy who just introduced absurd situations and stories and told jokes and stuff like that. That's who David Frost was. His writers, this interesting David Frost fun fact, his writers and the other performers, like, how The Daily Show had other, like, people who went in the field and did interviews. So on the David Frost version of that in the BBC in the 1960s, his sidekicks, his performers, would all a couple of years later go on to form their own thing called Monty Python's Flying Circus. He had John Cleese, he had Eric Idle, he had all of the people who would go on, Michael Palin, all of those people. So, he's a comedian. But here in America, we don't recognize him as that. We think because the one thing we know that he did here was a serious sit-down interview with Richard Nixon, we think of David Frost as like a serious guy. And I think that he played into that. Like, I think after that occurred, I think in America he did sort of play into that. But in England, they're like, he's a comedian. He's like a joke writer. But he was very, very, very elegant, very sophisticated, and, very dry. Like, his humor was very dry. Maybe he just turned it off for the Americans. Born on this day in 1948, John Oates. The mustache, the perm. He's the other half of Hall. John Oates, Daryl Hall, John Oates. What do you think that relationship's like? It's gotta be pretty good. Here's what I hope for John Oates. John Oates is probably a wonderfully talented musician and all that kind of stuff, but let's not kid ourselves. Hall and Oates is Daryl Hall's voice. Daryl Hall's that blue-eyed soul. That's the thing. You could let's be honest about some other things. You could more easily replace John Oates from Hall & Oates than you could Hall. People will see Hall. People aren't going to see Oates. That's just a fact. So here's my hope for John Oates in the way that he has handled this partnership. I hope John Oates realized at some point, he's like, man, I probably could have just had a 2-bedroom house in the suburbs and been a fairly successful local studio artist. I could have played on some people's stuff. I could have had a nice life, played in bar bands on weekends. But then I met this guy, and I dropped my hooks. I hope he realizes that. Because he is a talented guy, but there's a lot of talented guys playing in bar bands on Friday night. Just a thing. But you're a talented guy who somehow hooked up with somebody who had that X factor that people look for. And I know, and he's cool. You know what? It's got to be cool. Daryl Hall has got to be so cool. Because Daryl Hall has allowed that band to remain Hall & Oates long after it could have just been the Daryl Hall Band. It really could have. So, you know what? Now look at this. We've worked through it. This is what a stream of consciousness is all about. We worked through it. I was suspicious, but now I just love both Hall and Oates because it seems like they've got a fine working relationship and they both understand their place. Born on this day in 1954, Jackie Chan. Do we like Jackie Chan? I like Jackie Chan. Jackie Chandra! I haven't seen that many Hong Kong kung fu kicky face movies. I don't know. How would I do with Jackie Chan? He's Jackie Chan. What were those movies? He did like American movies with Chris Tucker, right? Do you know I've never seen any of those? I've never seen any of those. I'm trying to think. I saw Rumble in the Bronx. I think that was released in the 80s. I think I saw that. I think that was really cool. Happy birthday, Jackie Chan. Born on this day in 1954. Tony Dorsett, local legend, icon, Dallas football Cowboys. Tony Dorsett. When I was a little kid, I can tell you this. can tell you this, when I was a little kid, I didn't have a lot of hate in my heart. Not yet anyway, but as a little kid, I had some hate in my heart, and that hate in my heart was reserved for two people. Their names were Earl Campbell and Tony Dorsett. Because you see, at the time, Billy Sims was on the horizon. I could see Billy Sims coming. But at this point, it was all about Earl Campbell and Tony Dorsett. I hated those guys. Because I was a Walter Payton kid. I was like 8 years old, and Walter Payton was my guy. Walter Payton. Yeah, Tony Dorsett's better than Walter Payton. No, he's not. It was just awful. It was awful. Happy birthday, Tony Dorsett. 8-year-old me didn't like you. Grown-up, mature me recognizes that I was a dumb little 8-year-old and that you're one of the greats of all time, and that, just on that, sir, you have my eternal respect. I also know your son. Your son, Anthony, is a wonderful kid. So obviously, kid, what the hell's wrong with me? He's a dude. He's like a guy. He's a wonderful kid. No, 80's awesome. So you're obviously a decent person. You're not who my 8-year-old thought. My 8-year-old me didn't like Tony Dorsett. Happy birthday. But isn't that really, for a pro athlete, isn't that the greatest form of compliment they can receive? That children in their rivals' market hate you? That's really, you process that properly, and that's a feel good. Born on this day in 1960, Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas shocked the world. Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson in Tokyo. Shocked the world. But at that point, Tyson had mowed through everybody. He was like, he's bubbling over. He's just going, I'm crazy, Mike Tyson. And they're just like, there's dudes in the rafters with like trank guns, just, and anytime they had to move him out in public. Remember back when Mike Tyson, when they had to move him out in public, he was like, just kind of put me in the ring and the fight. But he was that for a couple of years. And this was around the time that they trotted him out into Tokyo. And Buster Douglas, who, let's be honest about what this fight was. This fight was, there's a lot of rich guys in Tokyo who will spend a whole lot of money to see Mike Tyson. That's all this fight was. Buster Douglas wasn't supposed to be anything. This was just supposed to be a, tomato can fight for Mike Tyson to impress a whole bunch of super wealthy Tokyo billionaires into investing in crazy things that Don King wanted to do. That's really all this was. It was an opportunity for Don King to make a bunch of friends with a bunch of Tokyo billionaires, and that's why this fight was set up. And Buster Douglas KO'd. Yeah, I'm all tranked out. And when you see the fight, that wasn't Mike. You knew from the beginning that wasn't Mike. You watch Mike Tyson videos, you watch Mike Tyson fights, and you're like, there's two Mikes. There's the Mike Tyson, and then there's the one that Buster Douglas knocked out. That's a totally different. Mike has turned himself around, right? Mike Tyson turned himself around. Mike Tyson, Robert Downey Jr. Buster Douglas, though, God bless him, man. Look, it's going to happen to somebody, right? Somebody's going to be the beneficiary of some goat taking a stumble. And in this case, history will record that Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson and became the heavyweight champion of the world. No one can ever take that away from Buster Douglas. And I hope he cashed in. I hope. I wonder now, how old is Buster? I'm Buster's, so 1960, so 40, 50, 60, 63, 63. So Buster Douglas is 63 years old. Yeah, that was embarrassing how long it took me to do that math. So, I don't know, what do you think Buster's got? What do you think does Buster live in a suburban estate with a family and kids, or does Buster have a $500,000 townhouse, nice manicured, a very nice neighborhood, there's a Starbucks on the corner and there's a mall right across, you know what I mean, a nice living. Does he have that, or is he broke? Is Buster just broke? Blew it all. Got $5 million between 1990 and 1996, and it's all gone. I don't know. I worry about Buster. That's not true. I've never even thought about Buster until this day. Born on this day in 1964, Russell Crowe. Ladies and gentlemen, Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe draft. Okay. When I told you I was late yesterday because of Paul Rudd, today I was late because of Russell Crowe. I was like, man, I don't like to do more than one draft in a show. And I had to do the Francis Ford Coppola draft. And so I'm looking at Russell Crowe. And here, Russell Crowe, we won't do a Russell Crowe draft. But let's acknowledge that Russell Crowe's done some pretty freaking awesome movies, right? Russell Crowe, I know, does he get made fun of? Like, do we make fun? I don't know. What is the reaction to Russell Crowe? Like, oh, Russell Crowe's in it. Is the reaction right now, oh, cool, I like Russell Crowe? Or is the action an eye roll? Because there was a period of time where Russell Crowe was kind of like a little much, right? He was getting drunk and he was fighting people and, you know, whatever. He seems like he calmed down. I don't know. I like Russell Crowe. I like him. All right, so looking at his filmography, we're not doing a draft, but jumping right out to me, 1992, the first time I saw Russell Crowe. This is the first thing I ever saw. He was in an Australian indie film. Yeah, that was 1992. I was 23. I was going to an art school, man. I went to a lot of stupid indie films, you know, with like chicks that I was dating. You know, I saw this movie called Romper Stomper. Romper Stomper. Have you guys ever seen Romper Stomper? Romper Stomper is the story of, it's basically American History X, but set in Australia. And Russell Crowe plays the leader of this skinhead band. And it's the first time I ever saw Russell Crowe. Romper Stomper. And I was like, Jesus, that guy is scary. And he went on to become Russell Crowe. And that's really cool. So Romper Stomper is certainly one that would make my draft. Quick and the Dead, No Way Back, The Sum of Us, L.A. Confidential. Very good, right? L.A. Confidential's awesome. We love L.A. Confidential. That was good. Anything else? Mystery Alaska. There's a sleeper. Have you ever seen Russell Crowe's Mystery Alaska about the hockey team in the town of Mystery, Alaska? It's like just a little bunch of dudes who play hockey together, grown men who play hockey. And somehow they get a game against the New York Islanders or something. They come and play there. So good. Such a good sports movie. Mystery Alaska, Russell Crowe. I forgot about that. The Insider. He's very good in that. Gladiator. How do we, right? Gladiator. Would Gladiator be the number one pick? I don't know. Were I to really do a draft? This is all the shit that I was considering. This is why we're late. Thank you. I was trying to depict why the show was a little bit late. Because I got all caught up in whether or not I should do a Russell Crowe draft. Beautiful Mind. I mean, come on. 3:10 to Yuma. That was pretty good. Cinderella Man. Oh, my God. Whatever. Here's the point. We're not doing a Russell Crowe draft, but those are just some of the movies that you might have heard if we decided to do one. Born on this day in 1975, they ain't just umbilical twins or cousins. They are actual twins. Ladies and gentlemen, Rondé and Tiki Barber were born on this day. I make no attempt, nor any distinction at telling these two apart. I don't know. Rondé Barber and Tiki Barber. They were in football. They were NFL players. One was corner, I think, maybe a safety. I don't. Here's the point. One was a running back. Here's the point. Neither of the Barber brothers ever played for a team that I watched or cared about. So I don't know what the difference is. One of them's on TV. I don't know which one's on TV. Is it Rondé? Who's the one? One of them. The other one's also on TV. I don't know which one's the running back. I don't know if Tiki's the running back and Rondé's the corner. I don't know. Or safety. Don't even know if he's a corner or a safety. But happy birthday, Barber brothers. You guys have, did stuff. You guys did stuff in Tampa and New York. And, I'm just not a fan of either of those teams. All right, let's get into the deaths. We're going to talk about some people who died today. Yesterday, I teased yesterday. Or not, I didn't tease. I mentioned, called back to yesterday, when the death portion of the previously on April the 7th, when the death portion from yesterday's show was Chock full of really big names, superstars, megastars, really. Big name people. Tammy Wynette, Ray Charles, Merle Haggard. Who am I missing? Don Rickles, right? Big name stars. And I was like, wow, this is really a day where it's not good to be a megastar because megastars die on this day. I looked at today's list of deaths, and we do not have the quantity of names. But folks, I think that on this day, the biggest celebrity of all time, the biggest megastar of all time passed away. So let's get into it. Let's get into some of the people who died. Some of the people who died. Let's start with AD 30, the death of someone named Jesus Christ. Moving on, 1891. Of course I'm not moving on. That's the biggest celebrity of all time. There is not a larger superstar. Literally, Jesus Christ, superstar is a thing. There is not a bigger superstar that we could spend a moment to talk about the life and worldly contributions they've made to humanity. There is not a bigger name that would justify such treatment. So let's get into Jesus Christ on this Good Friday, as celebrated in the Christian faith. Is that all Christians? Or is it just Catholics? Is it just Catholics? I don't know, I'm Catholic. So today's Good Friday. Hold on, I'm all tangled here. I'm going to talk about. So Jesus died today. AD 30. I don't know how all that works. I don't know. I don't know how it works. But, right, that makes sense. 30, AD 30, BC, whatever. AD, Anno Domini. So let's just talk about that. Let's just talk about the idea that I hold. Now again, let's preface all of this. This is coming at the subject of Jesus from somebody who does not subscribe to a faith. This is a discussion about Jesus and the imprint that he made on humanity from somebody who doesn't cotton to Christianity, or at least common held Christian beliefs. I'm not a man of faith. I'm a seeker. I'm just a person. And this is how I've raised my son. Not well, partial. Well, I'm a part-time dad, but my son and I have heavy, deep conversations about all kinds of things because I like to do that. And you know what? Strangely enough, so does he. Aren't genetics fun? So my son and I have talked about the concept of Jesus from a very, very early age. My son does not go to church. My son is not, he's not being raised in a Christian home, but he's got a lot of friends who are because he's in Texas, and he's being exposed to Jesus. He goes to church with, his friends from time to time and stuff like that, or he goes to we were playing baseball. Where? At this Christian youth group after school. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Those are all great things. Wonderful community. After school things funded by churches and all that. No problem with that. But, I've always felt that it was important for my son to have an understanding of what, or at least the difference between who Jesus was, who we as a family, who I as a teacher to my son, who I believe him to be. And in our family, we do believe him to be a man. We believe him to be a significant man. We believe him to be the world's most significant man. 30 AD. And Jesus is as big in 2023 as anybody. And I also tell my son that he was probably the best man that ever lived. If you just go by the words of Jesus, that dude was cool. Everybody liked you. Now, well, Daddy, if that's true, then why don't we go to church? Why don't we go? And it's just, then you have to have the awkward conversation because man, as they always will take something that people are moved by, like the word of Christ, and they will then manipulate it or take that word, change it, and use it for their own benefit. And that's kind of what I've taught him that I feel I've seen too much of in organized religion. That doesn't mean, because here's the thing with a kid, when a kid's having these questions, you don't want to necessarily sway them in any one way or the other, but you also want them to know how you feel. because hopefully if you're talking to your child about something this important, you've put some real thought into it, and this is how you, having been on this planet, this is... But I want him to have an open mind. Like, I would love, if he finds a faith, if he finds something that he gets really into, as long as he doesn't get weird into it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want a weird... But if he finds something that he really likes and he wants to be a part of, and it's a community and they do good works, and that's fine. That's fine. He can grow into his old man. That's what his own man. That's what being a searcher is. But the very fact that I, in 2020, that was probably conversations that we started having around 2019. The very fact that I, a father in 2019, is having heartfelt conversations with their child about the word of Jesus Christ, who died on this day in AD 30. I mean, he's the biggest superstar of all time. No human has ever walked this earth who has made a greater impression than Jesus Christ. That cannot be denied. Muhammad, let's check the numbers then. I don't know, maybe. Okay. But I am talking from the perspective of people like us. Modern, Western, Judeo-Christian, those of us who exist in these societies, okay? If those are the constructs of the society that we exist in, we must accept that those are realities. So yes, from our point of view, Jesus Christ would probably be the biggest superstar of all time. Dead on this day in 1891, P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum, yeah, he was the guy that, he was a sucker born every minute. Wasn't that his deal? Wasn't that his thing? He was a big con man. Born on this day, or dead on this day in 1947. P.T. Barnum's dead too. Dead on this day in 1947. Henry Ford, American engineer and businessman, founder of the Ford Motor Company. Interestingly enough, Henry Ford loved Jesus. Henry Ford hated Jews. Did nobody tell? Did he never get Jesus's business card that said right there, King of the Jews? Because, that's a confliction right there. I'm just saying. And there you go. Look at me. That's one of the issues that I have with religion. See? Religion. Jesus was a Jew. So why do you hate Jews? Well, don't hate Jews. He was a Jew. No, he wasn't. Yes, he was. He was. He was King of the Jews. Well, we overlook that. A lot of Christian faiths tend to be a little bit anti-Semitic. And I always think that's odd, since you're all walking around with, crucifixes around your neck. What's going on here? Who else? 1972. Here we go. This is another one. This was like Merle Haggard yesterday. On this day in 1972, on his birthday, we talked about him. We went into him about 10, 15 minutes ago. Ladies and gentlemen, dead on this day, 1972, Crazy Joe Gallo. That's right, Crazy Joe Gallo was gunned down by Robert De Niro, the Irishman. Crazy Joe Gallo was gunned down on his birthday while dining at Umberto's Clam House. I believe that's in Little Italy. It was depicted in the film The Irishman. That was on this day in 1972. Dead on this day in 2012, Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace is a god in the journalism community. Mike Wallace started out as a game show host. Mike Wallace, kind of like David Frost. Mike Wallace was something completely different than what he ended up being. Mike Wallace was a pitchman. Hi, I'm Mike Wallace. I have no journalism background whatsoever, but I want you to smoke these cigarettes. That's what Mike Wallace was. He wasn't known for anything else. Oh, that's the guy who sells those cigarettes on TV. And people went, oh, well, he has a very trustworthy demeanor. So in the early days of news, they went, let's get the guy who sells cigarettes and tell him to pretend to be a news guy. What's a news guy? I don't know. We don't know what a news guy is. It's 1952. So Mike Wallace just kind of, but that's what he was. Mike Wallace was a game show host, and but he was most recognized as a cigarette salesman. Mike Wallace, who of course would go on 60 Minutes and, be Mike Wallace, the Mike Wallace that we know today. He's dead. Mike Wallace, a father of Chris Wallace, who has his own fine journalism career. Chris Wallace and Mike Wallace, you think, oh, his dad helped him, yeah. Because I always watch out for that. You know how I'm a big I'm a big hawk when it comes to who's this new star? Why is everybody talking about them? Who's their dad? What does their dad do? Oh, he works for the Koch brothers? That explains why everybody's talking about her. They probably own a bunch of magazines and now they're writing articles about one of the Koch brother VP's daughter. Whatever. So I pay attention to these things. Chris Wallace pretty much did it all on his own because Mike Wallace was a horseshit father. Mike Wallace had horrible depression. He was absent. He cheated on their mom. He was gone all the time. He was a drinker. Mike Wallace and Chris Wallace had very little to talk about. They had very little in common. And then there was another Wallace kid who died. And it was after the older son, Chris Wallace's older brother, Mike Wallace's first son. It was after he died that Mike Wallace just like completely cut off Chris Wallace. You would think it would be the opposite. You have two sons, you lose one. Wouldn't that draw you closer to the one that remained? But no, that's not how it went. There's some really interesting stuff about Mike Wallace. I always found him very interesting. He battled some demons. Dead on this day, Mike Wallace. 2012. Dead on this day in 2020, the great John Prine. John Prine, American country folk singer, Hall of Famer, beloved by many. The mailman. He was a fun John Prine story. John Prine was a mailman in Oak Park, Illinois. It's a little suburb outside of Chicago. And he used to play music. Just, like open mic nights and folk nights and all that kind of stuff. This is late 60s, early 70s in Chicago. He would go down at night after doing a mail route all day. And he'd go down and he'd play in these little folk clubs in Chicago. He got a fan. He got this young film critic named Roger Ebert, was a guy who used to sit there and watch this like unknown John Prine get up there and sing these really quirky and interesting songs with fantastic lyrics and wonderful rhythms. And Roger Ebert was doing a story in town in Chicago on Chris Christopherson. And Chris Christopherson, who at the time was a big singer-songwriter, recording artist in his own right, who was becoming a movie actor. So I guess Roger Ebert was spending a day with Chris Christopherson, about his upcoming, how film critics do. And one of the things that Roger Ebert did was he said to Chris Christopherson, you got to see this guy who plays these open mics. I want you to see him. We'll have some drinks. It'll be nice. Chris Christopherson saw John Prine and went, I'm starting my own record label. I'm making you the lead guy. And the rest is history. And that's the story of John Prine. Huh? See, that's how people get discovered. Dude was a mailman. And one day he just happened to be playing for Roger Ebert, who wasn't that big of a deal because he wasn't on TV yet. And he was just a guy who wrote movie reviews. But one night, Roger Ebert brought Chris Christopherson in, and that changed John Prine's life. All right, that's going to do it. Those are the deaths. Those are the births. Those are the events. Previously, on April the 7th is now in the book. So let's run through some of the things that are happening. These are the trending topics. These are the buzzed about things that, people might be whispering about today. Here we go. First and foremost, Tennessee. We got some problems going on in Tennessee. Tennessee, take me to a better place. Tennessee, the State House, they did something that doesn't look good, not on paper. Look, I'm following this much closer than maybe I'm letting on here because, this is a very highly charged political situation, and we don't do those things here. So basically, here's the rundown. A bunch of citizens in Tennessee crashed the house, the State House there, interrupted proceedings, fled onto the floor. They were protesting gun violence in Tennessee and gun violence at schools. We had just come out of the shooting there in Nashville a couple of days earlier. During this incident with the general public, 3 Democrat lawmakers who are duly elected members of the Tennessee legislature got up and joined the people. Okay, now fast forward to what happened in the wake of that. Everything calmed down. The place didn't burn down. Nobody died. In the wake of that, those 3 Democratic lawmakers were brought up on charges of, I don't know, whatever. Basically, here's what the deal is. They're going to be kicked out. First, they were stripped of all of their committee assignments. That was the first thing. Then they decided to hold a vote to get rid of these duly elected people. It was crazy. It was going on all day yesterday. Impassioned speech, very political. If you try to avoid politics, then avoid this story. But it was crazy. And they were expelled. Although, interestingly enough, and this is what I say about people on the right and people on the left. They can't help but trip over their own dicks. They make these own goals on themselves that are just so easy to avoid. So what is the dick-tripping own goal that we're dealing with today in the aftermath of these 3 Tennessee legislators being put on trial in the State House? 2 of them were kicked out. 1 of them was not. They were all being charged with the same damn thing. 2 of them were kicked out. 1 of them was not. The 2 that were kicked out were the 2 black guys. And the one that they let stay was the white lady. The Karen, basically, who, was certainly standing with them. But that's what I mean by an own goal, man. You could have avoided how that looks. You know that looks good. Whether it's just, I don't know what your rationale was. Maybe your rationale isn't that I just hate the black people and let's spare the white lady. If that was the rationale, then yeah. Okay, it's not an own goal. You're just evil and you are everything we think you are. But that's so avoidable. This kind of thing is so avoidable. Oh. Yeah. And then, of course, so the white lady who's allowed to stay, she walks out into the crowd of reporters, and the reporters are like, why do you think you were allowed to stay? Why do you think you were allowed to stay? And she looked at the camera and she goes, I'm guessing it has something to do with skin color. So she's just fanning the flames. Here's my point. The Republican, I don't like what's going on there. I don't like it at all. I watched all the speeches. It seemed like a lot of people, at some point, it stopped being legitimately about what they did wrong and more about scoring political capital for whatever your next run for office is going to be. Like these 3 guys, these two guys that got kicked out of the Tennessee legislature. These 2 duly elected representatives that got kicked out. It's the best thing that ever happened to them. Let's be honest. In principle, what is happening here is incredibly wrong. It does not feel like what democracy is supposed to resemble, okay? Doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. However, at the very same time, 2 things can be true. These 2 politicians who were nameless and unknown are now superstars, okay? This one guy, Justin Jones, I don't know, something like that. This one guy got up and he spoke beautifully for a long time, justifying his actions. And I'm watching this guy going, all right, this guy who nobody knew 72 hours ago has just been kicked out of the legislature. This dude is now a legitimate candidate for governor of Tennessee. They just took some guy if there really is a blue wave, and it's looking like in these southern communities based on these gun issues, mamas are scared now, shit's happening all over, whatever. Kentucky's got a Democratic governor. I'm just saying, this is so dumb. This is the best thing, personally, for his career, it's the best thing that ever happened. You use elected state house seats as a stepping stone. You stay there as long as it takes for you to make a little bit of name in the community so that you can attract a local donor so that they can propel you into a higher office. That's why people do that at the state house level. This dude just got kicked out, and he was put in the fast lane. He is now in the fast lane. So that's the truth about Tennessee. The real issue of gun violence, not being discussed at all. Not at all. We've now been distracted away from that issue, and maybe that was the design the whole time. Maybe that was the design. I don't know. Anyway, that's what's happening there. Israel, we got other problems happening in Israel. Israel's on fire, man. Lebanon is firing rockets into the settlements there in Israel. The Iron Dome, which is the Israeli defense system, is ping, ping, ping. And people are sitting in their backyard drinking wine, filming on their iPhones. Missiles being intercepted over their suburban. It's crazy what's going on over there. So those were the attacks by the Lebanese. That happened 2 nights ago, and then the next night, last night, or ongoing right now. Israel is fighting back. They're and they're just blowing the snot out of everything. It's terrible. It's really terrible because we do not need an aggressive Israel right now. We don't need that. We got too many problems. We got the situation. We got stuff going on with China and the Hong Kongs and all of that stuff. And we don't need this. We don't need this. But yeah, I mean, Israel has always been what I'm saying is, they always go back and forth. They do. They always go back and forth. But typically not at a time when so many other places in the world would be considered hot boxes. The tinder boxes, I guess, would be better, right? Any little thing that now occurs in the Middle East is going to have a whole bunch of people who are already at war about other things sitting at a table arguing about what to do about oil. Because that's going to bring, and it's just going to be uglier and uglier. It's going to be messy. And now we're going to enter. Now we want to inject a Middle East oil emergency into the situation that's already happening in the Ukraine, and it's already global inflation. Come on, man. This is a big deal. Keep an eye on Israel. We're very worried about what happens next. The Lebanese they shot the missiles in. The Israelis shot them down with their Iron Dome. The Israelis then responded, and they pounded the hell. Israel, they will pound the hell out of you, man. You can fire 5 rockets at them, and they're going to send 500 back. It's just the way they do. Jobs is trending. Apparently it's another great jobs report. Yay, great jobs report. I'm so tired of these jobs reports, man. Okay, first of all, what we need to understand is that the Trump administration. Do you remember when it was the months and months of good job reports during the 2016 election cycle, which Trump would eventually win. But the job reports were all good. Like the outgoing Obama administration, the job reports were good. So the Trump people, they would say, but those are fixed. Those aren't real numbers. Those aren't real. But then when that continued to happen, when the jobs were good, when he became president, then suddenly they weren't fixed. And he was like, look at how great the numbers are, even though they were a continuation of the uptick that was happening long before he got there. But he took credit for it, and that's fine. All presidents do. That's the thing about job numbers and economy numbers. All presidents get to take credit for whatever they are when they're there, whether they had anything to do with it or not. But then when they started to trick down, the Trump administration made some changes. They made some changes to the way the numbers are interpreted and the way that the numbers are reported, just so that they could continue. You know the old saying, if you look at any statistic, you can make numbers say whatever you want. So there was a real effort for that, and a new method of doing it was enacted in the Trump administration. The numbers continued to be good and all that kind of stuff. And they're still using that method today. They're still using it the same way. It's the same Department of Labor statistics, which is, those are the people who don't change over when new presidents come in. These are people who have jobs for life. They're just clerks. I work in the Department of Labor statistics. The head changes, but, the real rank and file. So they're doing it the same way that they've been doing it now forever. And the numbers are really good again for Biden. And, of course, the Trump people are now back to going, ouch, because those numbers those aren't real numbers. And they're right. And how do they know it? Because they did it. Because they're the ones who turned it into. Anyway, these are all games. So no matter who the president is, don't get yourself all excited about whatever the month-to-month job numbers are. They're based on much larger factors than whoever is sitting in the White House. However, let me show you a couple of examples here, because I push back on this. This is being presented as good news, right? It's good news. 160,892,000. That's the number of Americans who have been employed and who are employed, and it sets 4th straight record for the month of March. The Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics says 160 million Americans were employed last month. Okay. Now, what was changed about that? In years past, what would constitute being employed last month would mean that you work a full-time schedule of 40 hours. That was changed. That was changed. So now you can work like 8 hours a week, and you will still, for the purposes of these numbers, be employed. Even though you don't have health insurance, you're not making any money, you're working 5 other jobs. You know what I mean? The Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics says that 160 million Americans were employed last month. The Bureau of Labor Statistics defines employed Americans. So here's the new rules. This is not new. They're not new. This was changed back, in 2016, 2017. The BLS defines employed Americans as those who, during the reference week, did some work for pay or profit, or did at least 15 hours of unpaid work in a family-operated business. So if you got come on, that's not work. That's not. So look at all these people who are employed. Look at the country is gainfully employed. Do you know how many of these people did some work last week? Some work? Did you do some work? Yeah, I did. I helped somebody dig a hole and he gave me $5. Gainfully employed. Let's put those in the numbers and let's show America how great the jobs market is. That's the kind of bullshit that's happening. So anytime you see these jobs numbers, and I'm telling you, caution yourself. Just because your guy's in office and they're good for him, don't act like he's a god. Look what we're doing. That they have nothing to do with anything. And besides the numbers, using the system that they do to come up with these numbers now, it's a con job. It's a shell game. The numbers are being manipulated to tell whatever the best story is. How do they define someone employed? Someone who did some work last week. See how disingenuous that is? These numbers are supposed to give us a good idea of how we're doing. Is our middle class thriving? Do we have people, can people save money? Can they invest in bigger things? Can we grow this country together? That's what these numbers are supposed to tell us. That's the purpose of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, to give us a fair idea of how we're doing. And do we need to make any changes? But that's not what this is. So don't be fooled. I feel like I just did AM talk radio there. I don't know. Although, but it's probably still too liberal. Probably still, All right, hold on a second. I'm having a little computer issue again. My thing is buffering. I don't know what's going on. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Give me a second here. No idea why this is happening. Oh, there we go. Sure. As soon as I move over to the backup. Yeah, that always happens. As soon as I move over to the backup. All right. So Israel, jobs, Tennessee. We've gone through those. What else do we have here? Let's see here. Tennessee trending. Israel trending. Jobs is trending. Clarence Thomas. Oh, do we need to talk about him? Oh, jeez, Clarence. Yeah, he was so sloppy. Sloppy. So Clarence Thomas, who, has never had an easy run there as a Supreme Court justice, although he's been there forever. So I could have reported this story yesterday, but I saw it and I'm like, this is more just politically divisive bullshit. I'm going to stay away from this story. I can't stay away from the story now because it's growing. It's a legit story. It's a legit story now. Apparently, for 20 years, Clarence Thomas, a sitting justice on the Supreme Court, has been accepting elaborate luxury gifts from a big-time GOP and far-right donor, which, folks, I'm sorry, is not a good thing. It is not a good thing. The Supreme Court is supposed to be completely untouchable. What makes it even more interesting is that the billionaire who has been splurging, whining and dining, the Thomases, Clarence and his wife, Ginny, these many decades, is none other than my neighbor, Harlan Crow. That's right, he lives somewhere around here. Harlan Crow, Dallas billionaire, Trammell Crow, one of the most high-profile names, civic names in Dallas. Harlan Crow is a very, very generous donor to right-wing and conservative causes, Republican donor, big-time Republican donor. And apparently, he and a Supreme Court Justice of the United States have been going on family vacations together, all on the billionaire's dime, for quite some time. And that is troubling. And it should be troubling. And it's not political. This is another one of these own goal dick-tripping situations where in the past, Harvey Weinstein never thought he could get in trouble for what he was doing, And I'm not saying, what I'm saying is in the past, men who were in a position of power, who maybe saw themselves as elite, got sloppy with shit because they just, in the past, everybody else is doing it. Nobody's going to get, well, at some point, somebody's going to be the first to get caught. And then nobody's going to do it anymore. And that's kind of Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein never thought he was going to get caught. He never thought there would be any repercussion because he played grab ass with something, because he tried to rape a movie star. He never thought that was done since the 1920s. He didn't think it. And I imagine that's a lot of what Clarence Thomas was thinking. Well, I know we're not supposed to hang out with billionaires, but come on, it's unavoidable. Who's going to say anything? You going to say anything? Nobody's going to say anything. I don't know. There are pictures. There are really, and if I have to tell you why this, I don't want to go into why this is a problem. If I have to tell you why this is a problem, then let's just move on to another subject, because it's just a problem. It's just an issue. Personally, I think Supreme Court justices, I think we ought to, when we work on that technology to keep things alive, I think that's what Supreme Court justices should only be. They should just be brains in a formaldehyde thing, right? And we need to work on some kind of way to hook up a computer so it can speak, so that they can process. Supreme Court justices should not be out in public. They shouldn't be having friends. Supreme Court justices have to be completely unbiased on everything without even a hair of doubt. Just how it's got to be. This just looks bad, Clarence Thomas. This could very easily turn into him having to step down. Wow, what are you talking? Dude, we saw a president arrested the other day. You think anything is off the table right now? Do you really think, nope, he's not going to step down. It's going to blow away. This is a different kind of animal. This is a very well-established donor to specific causes. Many of these causes with cases over the years that have appeared in front of the Supreme Court, and now it's being revealed that this guy is giving Clarence and Ginny Thomas use of his jet and inviting him to come stay every summer. Are you coming to Mayorkas? You going to stay at my private island again? Just you, me, and a couple of our friends from the gun lobby. Whatever. I don't know. Do you see how that looks bad? Do you see how that's an own goal? Do you see how that's a dick-tripping thing? And whatever. Go follow fucking Kagan around. You want to find some dirt on one of the liberal justices? Have at it. I got to imagine there are people who are trying tirelessly. But this one seems like a fairly easy one. He can't be on there's pictures all over the place of them. Clarence Thomas, dressed like he's on a safari. He's got the camera and the safari hat, and they got their arms around each other. They're somewhere in Thailand. Just looks bad. It looks bad, man. People are coming for everybody, no matter what your position is. If it's an elevated position, somebody is coming for you. You can't be dick tripping. You can't be own goaling. Jesus. Speaking of the Supreme Court had a very, very, very big decision that they made by not making a decision at all. That's right. The Supreme Court of the United States of America has decided not to intervene in the West Virginia. West Virginia made a state rule that says that if you were born a boy, you can't turn into a girl and compete on the girls' teams, right? They made that rule, one of the first rules. And it's been challenged, and it was actually overturned in Virginia at a different level of court. And the Supreme Court of the United States of America had to decide whether or not they were going to hear that case. because West Virginia wants the Supreme Court of the United States to codify their state law that says that if you're born with a penis, you can't swim with the girls on the swim team or whatever. West Virginia, the state of West Virginia, wanted the Supreme Court to do that. And the Supreme Court said, nope, we ain't getting involved in that. And they kicked it back. They said, we're not even interested. So that's very interesting. Because, you know what? Thankfully so. We don't need that. We do not need right now a Supreme Court battle over the drag issue. The drag issue needs to be... We do not need to spend any time on the drag issue. There you go. Or the trans issue. Other than just treat people nice. That's it. That should be all we do. Although, and here's the danger with this, because this is a stream of consciousness. I do get it. I get it, man. I don't know. I've thought about this ever since the Leah Thomas story, the swimmer. She had an advantage. Leah Thomas had an advantage. She just had an advantage. Look at her. Look at the team photo. She's larger. She's thicker. She looks much stronger. Of course, Leah Thomas, born a man, got an NCAA swimming scholarship as a man, and then transitions to a woman and joins the women's team and dominates. I mean, of course, man, that is a very complicated thing that we all need to think about. And when we're thinking about it, we cannot let sentiment interfere, because when we're taking up for those who we see as the oppressed class here, we're taking up, let's err on the side of the oppressed class. Who would be the person transitioning? Because remember, we're all trying to understand what we're all going through. So no judgment. Let's err on that side. What you're doing is you're forgetting about the other victims here, which is, the girls who are natural girls who are trying to compete and have been working their whole life, and now all of a sudden they don't get to win. They have to take second because the boy, the person that was born a boy who is now a girl is just like, 1/10 of a second faster than me. That's not fair either, man. And that you only acknowledge that's not fair if we can jump off. If the jumping off point is a point where we both agree that someone who was born a man and was a man for the first 19 years of his life is going to have some sort of physical advantage. Muscular, people talk about bone density. I don't even know what that means, but it's something that they talk about. Men, just look at a man and the way a man is built. So can we just agree that there is a physical advantage, and sports are based on physical competitions where a physical advantage might be the deciding factor? Can we agree with that? Because if we agree on that, then I don't know how we allow it. I don't know how we allow it. I've been grappling with this, literally since Fallon Fox. Fallon Fox was an MMA fighter. Fallon Fox was a dude who was an MMA fighter and then transitioned into a woman, and then she started fighting other women. And Fallon Fox was gigantic, like huge, muscular, like just didn't look like the same species of person. And Fallon Fox was just beating the snot out of women. That was not fair. That is obviously not fair. So how do you rectify that? Fallon Fox should have every opportunity to be. No, because men are bigger, men are stronger. I'm sorry, men are. Here's a fact. No matter what equality women achieve, and I hope that they achieve every single bit of equality that there is to be achieved, for whatever that is, there will never be. The person who deadlifts the most on this planet will never be a woman. That's just a fact. Because men are just physically stronger and bigger. The person with the bench press, the person who bench presses the most on this planet will never be a woman. Will never be a woman. You can't say, yeah, I can. 40-yard dash. I don't know, this one's a little more tricky, but I imagine that the fastest person on the planet will never be a woman, that it will always be a man. I'm not an idiot. I don't put any great stock in having an advantage in those three areas. Those three areas don't mean anything. Intellectually, emotionally, all those other things, women are, and many times are equal, are superior. Goes back and forth. But the fact is that no women will ever hold the record for deadlifting. It's always going to be a guy from Iceland. Always. All right. So that's such a difficult one. But the Supreme Court ain't getting into it. They're like, I don't know if you've heard, we've got some problems with old Clarence. Clarence is dick tripping and getting us all in a bad way. We're going to push this one back to you guys, West Virginia. You handle this nonsense down there. That Dylan Mulvaney is in the news again. Dylan Mulvaney is in the news because people are wondering, who the hell is this Dylan Mulvaney and why are they everywhere? A question that I asked on this show a couple of days ago. Dylan Mulvaney is a trans personality, Instagram person. And for some reason, all of the brands that are trying to show that they're allies are like, we're going to do something with trans. And they're all hiring this person, Dylan Mulvaney. They're all hiring the same person. Like, there's only one. And we're going to put him on everything. So, okay. All right. So there's this thing like, who is Dylan Mulvaney? And it's trending. And it's the Bud Light person. And I guess Kate Spade. They got mad at her for Kate Spade. Which, a trans person selling Kate Spade bags, that kind of feels on brand. The Bud Light's a little weird. Because like part of this Dylan Mulvaney's act is that she goes around sort of emulating Holly Golightly from Breakfast at Tiffany's. That's the look. That's the hairstyle she's wearing. That's the dress, the kind of dress that she's wearing. That's not Bud Light. Holly Golightly, Audrey Hepburn from Breakfast at Tiffany's would never drink Bud Light. That's not on brand. But I get it. So anyway, who is Dylan Mulvaney? Excuse me. Dylan Mulvaney is a dude, born a dude, went to high school as a dude, was a theater kid. No surprise there. Graduated high school, went to Cincinnati. Strange thing, because from Southern California. Went to Cincinnati. From Cincinnati, went to New York. Became a cast member of the Book of Mormon, which was a touring play. Was still a dude when he was in Book of Mormon. Then during the pandemic, started to transition and became this Instagram personality. And now look, now there's Dylan Mulvaney, the poster child for trans in America. The corporate poster child, because she's cashing checks. Philippines is trending. Philippines Good Friday. This is gross. This is a thing that happens in the Philippines that the government has outlawed, but they don't enforce it. They don't enforce. This is on Good Friday. The people in the Philippines, they all get crucified. Like a bunch of people, they make crosses, and then they reenact what Jesus went through. And they literally get crucified. They pound nails. There are videos. You can watch videos right now because we're in the social media era. You can see it. They literally crucify human beings the exact same way Jesus was crucified. And they've been doing it in the Philippines for like years and years and years. The government stepped in and went, you guys are freaking crazy. So they knocked that back. Adam Reyna, what a pain in the ass that is. Adam says, Book of Mormon isn't a play, it's a musical. Okay, all right, whatever. Wasn't really germane to the overall point, but thank you, Adam. What else is Adam yelling at me about? I'm sure a lot. Sometimes Adam does not like me at all. While I hope still maintaining a healthy respect for our years of service to each other. Now Jeff is saying, so SCOTUS can't have any friends separate from... Oh, Jeff, stop it. Stop. I'm not getting into this whole fucking political thing, Jeff. If you think that's a good look in the way a Supreme Court justice should comport himself, you're just wrong, and we'll just separate there. This isn't even political. This is just an own goal dick tripping thing. And also, insofar, that is not what happened. By default, it gets kicked back to the state. The Supreme Court didn't decide to kick it back to the state. That's simply what happens when the Supreme Court refuses to hear it. They refuse to hear it. Then, by default, it gets kicked back to the state. Get it right. Sorry. I must disagree with whatever... Adam says it was also a joke. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. I want to participate more in the chat room. I really do. I just get lost, because we're doing a stream here. I'm just, I'm going. And here's another thing that I'm trying to do. which is why it irritates me when Jeff Ballard says something like, get it right. It irritates me because I'm trying to read less, right? So that's like a default. On really important things that I want to get into, I will read how it's being framed, right? How it's being promoted, whatever the story is. I'll read word for word. But I do that too much. In looking back at the show, I'm like, man, I'm reading too much. I need to just, I need to read it ahead of time, and then I need to just talk about it. Talk about what I remember from reading it. Get it right. First of all, fuck you. Get it right. There's 70% of this show is wrong. You're not tuning in to get details absolutely right. God damn you. Now I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to spend the next 10 seconds sitting here. The next 10 seconds in silence is because Jeff Ballard pushed my buttons. Get it right. All right, I think you've all suffered enough. Let's talk. First of all, can we agree that's weird, though? In the Philippines, these people are like, I love Jesus so much. They just pounded nails. Gagank, gagank. And then they interviewed one of these dudes. They talked to him, after, because they cut him down. And they're like, hey, you survived, just like Jesus. They cut him down, and they were talking to this guy, and he's like, yeah, I've been doing it every year for 37 years. 37 years! This dude has been having nails pounded into his hands and his feet for 37 years. Hurts like hell, he says. I bet it. But it brings me closer to God. No, it doesn't. Okay, you know what? Who am I to say? It does or it doesn't. I just, I don't know. That's what's going on in the Philippines. People are being nailed to crosses. All right, we got 3 celebrities here. I mentioned this, that we've got 3 celebrities. These guys, they all died recently. Well, not recently, but within the last 6 months or so. And we've got causes of death on all of them. All right, first of all, Coolio. Remember Coolio? Coolio died. He died, I don't know, a while ago. 6 months, maybe, Coolio. Coolio died about 6 months ago. He was over at a buddy's house, and he went to the bathroom, and he never came out. And then after like a half hour, the buddy went, hey, Coolio, you okay? Cool. And, and he opened the door, which is always awkward when your friend's in the bathroom. He opened the door, he found him passed out dead. Turns out that Coolio, he died of fentanyl-laced. Yeah, they found fentanyl in there. They found all kinds of stuff in Coolio. It doesn't mean that he was like, I'm so fucked up. No, it just means that, they probably found some weed. He'd probably done some blow. Not within over the course of the last couple of days. He's Coolio. What's up, man? What's up? Yeah, you want to hit? Yeah, whatever. That's how he rolls. But some of that coke that he had in his system, it had the fentanyl. The fentanyl took him down. So there you go. Coolio. Dead on that fentanyl stuff. How about Lance Reddick? We didn't get really an opportunity to talk about Lance Reddick because this story of him passing happened, I remember it happened on a Friday, and it happened after the show had already been done. And, then my Monday, I don't think I mentioned it. Lance Reddick was awesome. First of all, from The Wire. Remember, here, let me show you who Lance Reddick is. You guys know who Lance Reddick is. You got to know who Lance Reddick is. He's one of them that guy actors, and he's awesome. He died. Isn't he also on a whole bunch? See, this is why I need to show you pictures of him. Because he's in a whole bunch of stuff. And I don't watch, I think he's in Marvel or DC stuff, and I don't know that or whatever. But he's this guy, super cool guy. Here you go. This is Lance Reddick. Boom, boom. Let's get Lance there. There he goes. All right, it's this dude right here. Lance Reddick from The Wire. That's how I know him. He was awesome in The Wire. See, are there any other pictures of him? Well, he died suddenly. 59 years old, dropped dead. His wife right there. Very tragic. I guess he's doing something currently. He's in something, some big thing, some big project. It's a DC or a Marvel thing, and now they've got to recast him or what the deal is. All right, so the reason we're showing pictures of him is because I want you to... I'm trying to find one that... There you go. That's kind of what he looks like. You get a good look at him. Lance Reddick, cause of death, has been released. and it is heart disease. He died of complications due to heart disease. It caused a massive heart attack. It was unknown that he had any kind of heart condition. And here's the interesting part of this. His family, including his family doctor, is saying that's some bullshit. He did not have heart disease. We know for a fact that Lance Reddick didn't have heart disease. Lance Reddick had... First, look at him. This is why I wanted to see pictures of him. Because one of the most striking things about Lance Reddick, whether it's any of the roles that he's in. John Wick. Oh, I forgot about him in John Wick. Any of the roles that he's in. He is incredibly physically fit. He looks like he's got like 1% body fat. Like his skin looks so tight on his frame, his developed, perfectly sculpted frame. He's not like a big kind of guy. He is a fit man. And apparently, he has, for his entire adult life, been a physical fitness freak who is very, very in tune with what's going on with his heart and with all of this kind of stuff. So the family is now in a bit of a battle trying to figure out why he dropped dead, because the official autopsy is now saying heart disease, and everybody who knows Lance Reddick is saying, no, not heart disease. Why are you even lying about this? Also, another guy from The Wire, another awesome character from The Wire, my favorite character in The Wire, Omar on the block, yo. Remember we lost Michael K. Williams? That was a rough one. Michael K. Williams, he of course played Omar in The Wire. Michael K. Williams also played Chalky in Boardwalk Empire. What an amazing actor Michael K. Williams was. Such a great actor. He died of fentanyl. We already know that again. He did a party drug, and he ended up dead in his New York penthouse and whatever. So Michael K. Williams, although this isn't necessarily a cause of death report like Lance Reddick or Coolio, they caught the guy, and they're putting on trial the guy who sold Michael K. Williams the fentanyl-laced cocaine. And here's what's interesting about it. Michael K. Williams, who was a successful actor, who was on numerous TV shows, working, beloved on the street. Yo, Omar! He couldn't walk down the street without people yelling, Omar! He was working. He had money. He was, he would pop on, when a sitcom needed somebody to walk in as an effect to have the audience go, woo! They would hire Michael K. Williams, Omar on the block, yo. My point is, he was a successful man. He drove down to like a really skanky area and bought cocaine off a corner coke dealer. Michael K. Williams. I mean, he's a celebrity. He has friends who are connected. Shouldn't they know somebody? He shouldn't have to get in a car and driving by fentanyl. Anyway, man, they got like these cameras, because cameras are everywhere now, and they've got Michael K. Williams in the car. They've got the handoff, and they've arrested the corner boy who sold Michael K. Williams the fentanyl-laced. Think about that, man. Now, let's just shift the perspective, though, because it's terrible what happened to Michael K. Williams. I don't know why he's driving around in bad neighborhoods. Although, let's be honest, if anybody should feel completely comfortable in America's worst neighborhoods, it's Michael K. Williams. Because he's Omar. Anybody that sees him is going to go, Omar. But I don't know why he's doing that. But here, let's shift the perspective a little bit to the corner boy, the slinger, the guy who's on the corner there slinging the rock. Probably, I don't know how old he is, whatever. I didn't see the story. This dude, man, what a messed up. He sold, look, he sells 100 bags of cocaine every day, right? Any of those 100 people end up dead. The cops ain't gonna pull the tapes from the cameras. They ain't gonna trace it even back to him. But he sold a bag of fentanyl-laced cocaine to a TV star. And so the police department went the extra mile. Boy, oh boy. And now that corner boy who probably could have gotten away with it. It probably should have gotten away with it. Corner boys get away with that all the time. People die of drug overdoses all the time. We don't arrest or find the specific corner boy. Backed up by video evidence, man hours going through tapes and tapes waiting for, you know what I mean? That's not done. So again, just shifting the perspective to watch the corner boy, that dude's got to be like, fuck, man. I'm just in this game to pay for college, or whatever, whatever the deal is. Yeah, you sold the bad fentanyl coke to a TV star. That's just a whole bunch of bad luck things crashing into each other, and they fell in your lap, son. Now you got to do the time. All right, here, we're going to end. No, we're not going to end. I'm sorry, we got two more. I'm sorry, I thought there was one more. Caitlin Clark. I want to talk a little bit about Caitlin Clark. She is the University of Iowa women's basketball player. Terrific young female basketball player. That's your thing. She and Angel Reese of LSU, the new champions of women's basketball. She and Angel Reese, they got into a bit of a thing. There was a big controversy. Angel Reese did this. Yeah, where's your finger? Where's your ring? After vanquishing Caitlin Clark in the Iowa Hawkeyes, it was seen as poor sportsmanship. It was roundly criticized. She was called, they rolled out the thug word, the black girl doing that, and it became that. It became a race thing. Then part two of that story developed after the initial, can you believe this, thug? The response was, Caitlin Clark does that all the time. And then, there were all these videos of Caitlin Clark also being a bad sport and taunting and talking trash, whatever. Then the third round of this conversation became, because that one didn't really catch on. Caitlin Clark doing it as well didn't catch on, and then the narrative, or then the response was, yeah, because that doesn't fit your narrative about Caitlin Clark being the sweetest little girl. She's actually, this happens a lot with sports guys. Luka Doncic is a bitch by absolutely every measurement. Luka Doncic is a crybaby bitch. A little snowflake crybaby bitch, okay? I am telling you this based on what people in other markets see. Now, here in town, everybody loves Luka. Luka is an undeniably, I'm not going to put a number on it, top player in the NBA. He's a superstar. He really is a superstar. But the narrative around Luka for the first couple of years was that he was awesome. Look at the smile. He's good looking. He's a good person. He's nice. He's fair. He's basically Captain America, but he's not from here. You know what I mean? Dirk was perfect. Dirk was basically perfect. So that's sort of what the narrative, the original construction, the idea of Luka was. And now it's like, here we are a couple of years, and the country hates Luka. The country wants him on their team. Don't get me wrong. Luka's great. I mean, I listen to almost exclusively New York and Chicago sports radio all day long. I have a friend who's involved in it, and so, they hate Luka. Every time Luka comes up, there's the one show in New York, the morning show on WFAN, which is Gino and Boomer. Every time Luka comes up, there's like crybaby stuff. It's just, I don't know. But that was the idea with Caitlin Clark, was that they were going to create this all-American girl next door. She's the girl who kept you up at night dribbling in her driveway because you wanted to go to bed, but she wanted to hit 100 more free throws. And now look at her. It all paid off. That was the bullshit narrative. Caitlin Clark's a killer. Caitlin Clark is an incredible athlete. She's so good at basketball, but she is a killer. You don't get to be Cindy Brady dribbling the ball in the driveway and be Caitlin Clark, okay? So the narrative was destined to fail once the competitive juices that these maniacs, these world-class athletes, these girls, I may not like women's basketball, but that doesn't take away from the fact that these girls are world-class athletes in their chosen sport. So the idea that Caitlin Clark was, this beautiful little thing, blah, 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 that was sort of ignored. And, Angel Reese was demonized. And Angel Reese then didn't help her own cause. She's another one of these dick trip her own goals. She got up and she was like, and it didn't play well. But here's the story as of today, okay? Because remember, the main story was, I can't believe that Angel Reese would do that to Caitlin Clark. Oh my God, that black girl has no class, and that little white girl has just been accosted by the... that was the undertones. That's the undertones of it. Let's talk about Caitlin Clark. Let's talk about what Caitlin Clark had to say about this whole thing. Clark said that she honestly didn't see Reese's taunt when the game was going on, and that it was wrong for people to criticize Reese. who was named the most outstanding player of the Final Four, when the emotion and passion is what gets people to watch the game. The ABC broadcast of the national championship had an average viewership of 9.9 million people, the most ever for a women's college basketball game. Caitlin Clark goes on to say, I think the biggest thing is we're all competitive. We all show our emotions in a different way. Angel is a tremendous, tremendous player. I have nothing but respect for her. I love her game. The way she rebounds the ball, scores the ball. It's all so absolutely incredible. I'm a big fan of her, Clark said, noting that she hasn't been on social media since she and her Iowa Hawkeyes lost the game, which she described the losing in the championship game and the championship game experience as a super, super fun experience. Caitlin Clark also goes on to say, no matter which way it goes, Angel Reese should never be criticized for what she did. Clark continued, I'm just one that competes, and she competed. I think everybody knew there was going to be a little bit of trash talk in that entire tournament. It's not just me and Angel. I don't think she should be criticized. Caitlin Clark is a baller. Okay, it's over. We're done. Okay, we can all stop talking about this stupid stories in our little sports corners of the Twitterverse. Okay, this story is now over. Why? Because Caitlin Clark just went, here's how it is. She's cool. I'm cool. We're out there playing against each other. This doesn't need to turn into some fucking race conversation, okay? We're a couple of competitors. I love the way she plays. She is good, man. You ever seen the way she plays? She is out there giving it everything. And ultimately, Caitlin Clark, think that that is what's in the best interest of the growth of the game of women's college basketball. Boom! She was good. That was great. Caitlin Clark is a beast, man. She's a beast and she's smart. Look out for her. Motley Crue is trending. All right, Motley Crue is a beast. Motley Crue, not so smart. I don't know. These guys they got some ugliness going on. Are y'all familiar with the ugliness that's going on here with Motley Crue? Motley Crue's out there touring. Come on! They're out there doing it. But it's not like Full Metal Motley. It's like a skeleton crew, if you will. It is. Motley Crue is being sued by their co-founding guitarist Mick Mars over a ripoff. Mick Mars is claiming that the boys in the Motley, they ripped him off. Mick Mars is also claiming that his disease was mocked, that they endlessly mocked his disease. And he's also saying that he was gaslit. He's saying that while he was sick, Mick Mars, guitars for Motley Crue, he's saying that while he was sick, Nikki Sixx, Vicky Sixx, one of them, the sixth guy, he was gaslighting him about his role in the band and all this kind of stuff. I had no idea this stuff was going on. I also had no idea the dudes in Motley Crue were this old. Do you know how old the Motley Crue guys are? Jeez Louise, man. All right, here we go. Motley Crue are being sued by their co-founding guitar. I'm going to read this one because it's funny. Because I want to make sure, because it's a funny story. Well, it's... here, first of all, let me show you Mick Mars. I mean, this is not Motley Crue, man. I come from the 80s. I remember Motley Crue. Mick Mars does not... yeah, we'll put Mick Mars up. Can't play their music, but I can hum along to it. All right. First of all, here's all right, this is gonna be. I'll always show this so we can really see it. All right. I don't know. I can't really manipulate the photo too well. That's Mick Mars. All right, there you go. That's Mick Mars. He's suing his former bandmates there in Motley Crue. He's looking like the Crypt Keeper, isn't he? I mean, he's looking like he looks like Richard Hunter's grandpa. I mean, he looks really well. He should. He's 71 years old. Mick Mars of Motley Crue is 71 years old. Good Lord. Motley Crue is being sued by their co-founding guitarist Mick Mars over claims they ripped him off and subjected him to gaslighting and mockery amid his painful spinal disease. Mick, 71, who helped found the group in 1980 alongside Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx. Tommy Lee is 60, Nikki Sixx is 64. Before the group later added Vince Neil, 62, as lead singer before they hit the big time. Mars is making the claim in a lawsuit filed against his fellow rockers in Hollywood while they are on their farewell tour with him. It says here, the suit states during much of the band's recent tenure, Sixx continually gaslighted Mars by telling him that Mars, had some sort of cognitive dysfunction and that his guitar playing was subpar, claiming that Mars forgot chords and sometimes started playing the wrong songs. So you get it? So Mick Mars is like sitting there and he's already dealing with this like spinal thing and he's trying to do the best he can on stage, or at least that's the way his lawyer's portraying it. And the Sixx guy, Nikki Sixx, is going, dude, you suck. You're playing the wrong thing. Don't you remember when I told you not to play that? And then he's like, I don't remember when you told me not to say that. Well, that's because you're losing your mind and you can't remember things. That's gaslighting. Yeah, he never told him that. The suit states that during much of the band's recent tenure, Sixx continually gaslit Mars by telling him that Mars, had some sort of cognitive dysfunction. Astonishingly enough, Nikki Sixx made these claims about Mars playing while Sixx did not play a single note on bass during the entire U.S. tour. Okay, so this is why I wanted to read this. Because sure, it's fun that a couple of members of Motley Crue are fighting with each other. But the revelations that Mick Mars is putting out there. Do you know how many people who look like they're probably Motley Crue fans ran their mouths whenever, a hip-hop guy is like singing over a voice track or whatever? Mick Mars is basically saying that Motley Crue has been lip-syncing for years. Not fully and not completely, but here, he goes into it. For years. Let's see here. Ironically, 100% of Sixx's bass parts were nothing but recordings on the same tour. Sixx was seen fist pumping in the air with his strumming hand while the bass parts play. In fact, a significant portion of Vince Neil's vocals were also pre-recorded before the tour. Even some of Tommy Lee's drum parts were recordings. Some fans actually noticed that Lee was walking towards his drum set in one appearance as they heard the drums begin to play. So, Mick Mars is like, so you're telling me that I can't play or whatever? You're telling me that I made all these mistakes? You're telling me that I suck? Okay, I guess I'm just going to tell the world about how we don't actually play anyway. We're all too messed up. The suit goes on. Mars, at times on the tour, did play the wrong chords, but not due to any cognitive dysfunction, as Sixx would have him believe. He was playing live and his ear monitors were constantly malfunctioning, causing Mars to be unable to hear his own instrument. The fact is that Mars is rarely mocked or criticized online for such things. He is the quiet member of the group who shows up to play and puts his heart and soul into each performance. This is all coming from Mars's lawyer, just so we're clear. Conversely, other band members are often criticized online, particularly Neil, who is routinely torn to shreds for, among other things, not even remembering the lyrics to songs. Paperwork filed at Los Angeles County Superior Court on Thursday through Mick's attorney, Edwin N. McPherson, says that the band withheld information about Motley Crue business in which the guitarist, Mars, has a 25% ownership stake. Mick, real name Robert Allen Deal, adds in the suit that the band has demanded he sign a severance agreement that would divest him of those and other future interests in return for a 5% stake of the group's 2023 tour. So they're basically trying to say, we want the 25%, your 25% in the band, we want that back, and in return, we're going to give you a one-time 5% stake of the upcoming Motley Crue tour. And he's like, fuck that. He's like, get out of here. I don't want 5% of the upcoming tour. I want 25% of everything, like I'm promised. Well, that's ugly. That happens when bands become, big business. people start getting. Look at the Beatles. Yeah, it started with the Beatles. No, goes all the way back. Starts with you can go all the way back to Frank Sinatra trying to gain his release from Harry James. Hold on here. Hold on. Is there anything else? Let me see. I'm doing a quick look. I think we're going to wrap that up, folks. I think this looks like a day. It looks like we've covered everything. We've covered everything that we need to cover here for the 7th day of April, year of our Lord, 2023. All right, there you go. I have big plans for the weekend. I intend to make a serious, and I hope to finish what will eventually one day be known as the first draft of the Live 105.3 podcast story. I've got all these individual stories. This is the weekend where I take the stories and I try and put them together and then match them up with some of the nice audio. That's what this weekend's about. Is there anything? I'm going to watch baseball. It's going to be a big baseball weekend, too. You might notice I'm mixing up the Hinckley songs. I kind of like this one, too. Hinckley. Look at that. Who knew? Who knew? Separate the art from the artist. That's what we always say here. All right, we can say goodbye to Nikki Sixx, too. You don't need to be hearing that. There I am. Everybody, everything is gonna be all right. All right, I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Any sort of big news, I'll jump in. We'll do breaking news and all of that good stuff. Other than that, see you Monday at noon for more. Find out what's happening on that day. Bye, everybody. I'm Pugs Moran. You're whoever you are. You're whoever you choose you are. Go